So hello friends, I'm Jagprakash Pathak and this is the part 2 of the tutorial in which we were creating a chat room from scratch using the Express library and the SQLite library. So if you have not watched the first part, simply go. There will be in description. There will be a link in the description of the first part. You can go there and watch that. And then proceed to this episode, which will be more helpful. If you don't want that, you can still watch this video and you will learn how to send data, how to store data and send back to the front end. So let's get started. First of all, let's import the SQLite database. We can do that by simply saying let any name which you want. I'll give you SQLite is equals to require. And if you have not forgotten, we have imported SQLite database by the command npm install SQLite. So I think you remember that. So dot workflows. Okay, now let's create a simple string called dbloc, that is database location. Where do you want to create a database? So I want to create in the same directory where this server is located. So we can say --dir name. This is a thing in this JavaScript which will give you the current working directory in which you are currently working. Plus you can say let's name it database dot yes. So I don't know, we should have to do slash or yes. So this will this has created, this will help us to get the location of the database. Now let's create the database itself. So we can create it by saying SQLite dot database, and then you have to specify the DB location over here, and this will next give you an callback function which will then help you to determine if there is an error in your code or not. So how you can do that is by simply saying if there's an error, then simply console.log there was an error in creating database, right? So this will now create the database for you, right? And now a database, an empty database. So after you create a database, you have to create a table in which you have to store the database, in which you have to store the data. So for that, we'll be creating a table named as posts, right? Which will store all the posts from every user. So ultimately, if you see in the front end, we are sending two data which we have to store, name and message. So let's create a table for these two. So let's first create a constant called schema. Let's call it post. Let's call it post SQL. So this is SQLite. So this is post SQL, the SQL which will be implemented for the post. So you can use this backtick. So that will give you an ease that you can change the paragraph and write. Otherwise, that would, you have to use plus everywhere. So let's write. So create table if not exists, right? Create table if not exists, posts, posts, okay, posts. And now we have to specify the different variables which we want to use. First of all, let's get this one. So let's say that we want to create a name which should not be null and which should be text. Okay, text not. And then after we have the message. So msg again text not null, right? And after doing this, simply say this. Now we have to execute this SQL command which we have written that. So that's extremely easy. db.exe, okay, not this one. db dot. So we have forgotten to give this let thing. That's why we are not getting the recommendations. So let's give let. Yeah, Now we can say db dot, now we want execute. Okay, I think so, this one, execute what, execute post SQL, right? And then dot, and this one again give you a callback with like this something. And now you can check that if there is an error in the code, then simply log uh, the sorry, there was an error in applying the schema. Okay, schema. Okay, so this error will be thrown if there will be a problem in applying schema, right? So else part also we can give the database created successfully, right? Database created successfully. And here also we can give the else part. So console.log and schema. I don't know that the spelling of schema is correct or not. I don't know. Schema applied successfully. So yes. And then after once we do that, let's check it. So that does that do successfully. So if you remember, to run the server we use npm start, right? So let's see that, hopefully finger crossed we do not have an error. So okay, actually till now you're not okay. There you can see, there the error comes. So it says app crash waiting for the file before. Okay, so this says use the new operator to create a new. Okay, so we have to use this after this is equal to new. Okay, so we have to use this operator called new, right? So I think so after this we get this yes, you can see that. So you have to use this new operator after this, so remember this. And I think so, yeah, you can see server created successfully on port 3000, database created successfully and schema applied successfully, and that too the database has also been created in our main directory. So okay, there was a little bug which has been fixed. So we've created the database successfully. Then now the next work is we have to simply insert the data after receiving from the client side, right? So how can you do that? If you remember, we were getting the data, message data from the client over here. So let's now put this data into the table posts. So that can be really done very easily. db dot, so let's create again in SQL. So let's call it const SQL is equals to the backtick again. So we can say insert into posts. Okay, insert into posts values, and then this value we to specify the values. So the values which we want is msg data dot name. And so remember this, these are strings, so you have to write that in double quotes and as well as in brackets. So yeah, that's thing to be considered. Okay, so and that too these are in bracket because they are string. So as we have specified, they are text in our schema where we have created. So you can see this, these are text. So yeah, then after we want the message. So dollar msg data dot sg, I think so. Let's double check that we are sending this. So okay, so we have name and msg, which is message, and what we are using here, sorry, here is name and msg. So that's what right now I think should work. So let's apply this sql. So let's apply this sql. So you can apply this sql pretty easily. Tab dot same command execute same sql, and then same callback function with an error variable, and then you can check that if there is an error by simply saying the same thing with console.log there was an error in inserting the data, right? And else data in, sorry, to log this, console.log what am I doing, I don't know. Okay, so console.log, and what I have to log is there, no, sorry, the data inserted to the database successfully. Okay, so the data, if the data is inserted successfully, you will see this message. If not, this message. So it's the time of truth. Let's see that does we successfully insert the data when the user submits the request. So let's open the URL, which is we have hosted on localhost 3000. So let's open it. So this is our chat room. So let's see that do we get the data successfully or not. So let's see. So let's specify our name as Jay and hi everyone. So submit. Okay, the data has been inserted successfully. So we've inserted the data pretty successfully, and you can even see the message, right? So that's great. Now the next thing. Okay, we have submitted the data, and the next thing is we have to fetch this data from the server side to our client side. So that could also be achieved pretty easily. You can say app dot, now this is a get request, not a post request, because we are sending something from the server, and now that will be on the location get all posts. Okay, and we can, now this also has a request and response thing. Okay, so I think so you got it, request and response thing, get all posts. So now how will be sending all the posts, right? And so we can send that all the posts by simply executing in the, now I'm not really doing validation stuff in this, so that's I'm not doing. So you can do all that validation stuff, that is the data received by the client is correct or data sent from the server is correct. So you can do that by own. Right now I'm just showing the basic functionality how it works. So the next thing which you have to do is simply we have to return all the users. So we can say db dot all, okay, all. Now this will need an SQL string, so let's create that SQL first. So let's call it const SQL is equals to, if you remember, for all it says select, okay, SELECT, okay, SELECT, okay, select asterisk, that is all from posts, I think that's the name. Posts, yeah. So we have done what, we have created an SQL string for simply executing. So you can execute this by saying db, okay, we have done that before, so we can say it SQL over this place, SQL, and now so here we have two things. One is the row, and the row will actually be all the data, an array of all the data, all the posts which will be in the table. So let's do it. And that's also a callback function. So remember that. That's a callback function. And what is callback function? Callback function is a function which is executed after a function. So if you don't know that, you can Google it. Callback function, JavaScript. Now over here, what I'll be supplying is this gives three parameters. You can see in the recommendations. So this now gives two things. This now gives an error and a row, so that we can do this. Next, what you can do is you can say if there's an error, simply console.log there was an error in fetching the data. Okay, and if that's not the case, then you can simply do else console.log log let's for now log this whole row object and see what do we receive in that. So let's do it. Let's call this get all posts, and we will call this from a client side, so don't forget that. So let's create a function. Now this will also be an async function because there will be some time consumed in fetching all the data received from our server, so it has to do some things. So that's why we will be using this get all posts. Now after this, what we'll be doing is let response, which is sent from the server, be equal. Okay, we forgot one thing. We have all the thing. Okay, we have to just hit this point. Okay, that's not for now. So what we can do is you can simply go there like that. Actually, we have to use fetch function over here, and then we have to call that same endpoint get all posts. So let's copy and paste that over here, and now let's add a wait over here. Await. Okay, and for now just run this. I'll be running that without any kind of special preparation. So let's refresh this and see that does we get the post which we have submitted previously. Finger crossed. Okay, sorry, I forgot to call this function get all posts. So let's call this in the starting. Let's call it get all posts. Actually, we do have a function get all this. So we have already created a function get all posts, so it's created. So get all posts, let's call it, and let's see that does that work or not. This is finger crossed. Okay, you can see that the previous post which we have created, we received that pretty successfully. So that's great. Next thing we can do is we can send this data back to our front end, and that too is also extremely easy. That's not at all tough. So what you can do is you can go to a server side, and the data which you have received over here, that is a row, we can send this whole as a response. So we can say response dot JSON okay, response dot JSON, and let's say status success. Okay, and then say data and the data. So we have a row as data. So this will be ultimately all the. So we can send this, and then after what we can see is we can say res dot JSON, and we can say status status, and the status is failed. Why? Because if there is an error, the response will be failed. So the data is nothing, a blank. What will be the data? Okay, so it's a blank. There's no data, right? So this is what it will be doing, and let's now receive that data in the front end. So after this, it is the response. This object will be having that data. So we can say let data be equals to await rest.json, and now this will get us the data which we have received, and now we can simply print this data in that div which we have created over here. You can see that. So first, let's now print this data console.log, that to make sure that we are receiving this data in our front end. So let's say this again, finger crossed, hoping that. Okay, so now we don't have to look this one because we are for sure doing that. So we have to open the developer console of this. So let's do it. Okay, my computer is working slow right now. Okay, so you can see, and now if we hit refresh, we should actually get the data. Yes, status successful, and we got an array. You can see this array really contains all the data which previously the message which was sent. So now the next work is pretty simple. We have to simply display this data in the div over here. So you can see ID chats. So we can do that pretty easily. So let's go to our front end and say that where's that? Where's that? Okay, we are receiving the data where. So instead of logging it, don't log it. Okay, so let's remove this one. So don't log it. Simply use this data. So let posts, or let's say let's container. See, or contain. Let's say container container. Okay, let's say container is equals to document dot get element by id. I don't know, I forgot the id is chats. So chats, chats. Now what you have to do is for so let's call it let post be equals to data, right? So this will be the post, and now for each array dot for each. So which array we have? We have the posts array, posts, I think so, array, and the element is the post, right? So now we have the post, and now we have to display this post on that container. Okay, so we can say container dot inner html plus equals to, first of all I want all these to be inside the div. Okay, and this I want this whole thing to be inside h4, the name to be inside h4. So we can simply say, okay, so instead of doing this we can give backticks because that will help us a lot. So after this, let's supply posts dot name. Okay, post dot name, and let's end the h4, and now let's go to p, and let's end that p, and inside that p we want to print the message which we get from the back end. So posts dot msg, and now let me explain what it's doing. It's for each post. Now this will give the server will be giving all the posts as an array, in this data object. So now what we are doing is we are getting the name and message and appending this div, this chats div, the div with an ID chat. We're appending that with this HTML each time with the name and the with this HTML, right? So let's refresh this and hope that we get okay. So now we can see that we are getting the name as undefined. I don't know why. Because I think so. I made a spelling error. Okay. What are we sending? Now, till now, what you can see, the error due to which we were really not being able to print the name was actually I have written this as posts. Now I have removed this and made this post. So there was a typo, and due to which this was not working. So next thing is let's go to this and check. So let's refresh that once, and let's say my name is okay. Okay. Actually, I've removed this call, so get all posts. Sorry. So I've removed. Actually, I was testing something, so I removed that one. So if I refresh this, you can see we are getting all the posts. Now what we want is this to be real time. Actually, we don't want this to be like don't we don't want this. And actually, you can add one more posts. Like let's call it Ritik has said, how is the day going? Okay, and let's submit it. Okay, there's something error. How is the day going? Submit. So data received successfully. Okay, so let's refresh this and see how is the day going. Now what we want is next is we want to make this messages appear as soon as we hit the submit button. So we can do this by simply recalling this get all messages event after 1 second, each after 1 second. So what we can do is we can remove this one. It's a set interval. So you can give this one, and now you can specify an interval here and a function which we are doing here. So let's say get all posts, and let's give in 1000 millisecond as the interval. So let's refresh this one. Okay. Okay. The problem, we are actually appending this. So to fix this one, actually, okay. So to fix this one, what we have to do is we have to first of all go. Okay, so this will have let's refresh it. Until that time, let's go over here, and each time this does simply set the dot inner html to be as nothing, simply blank. So let's do it. Let's refresh it. So now this is fixed. So now we can, if we write, let's call it, let's my name, let's give again J, and let's say how is everyone, and let's submit this one. And so you can see that appears instantly, right? So now you can see that we have successfully created a chat room. Now you can give the styling and do all kinds of those stuffs in this, and this is a very functional chat room using express library and SQLite and this HTML and JavaScript. So thank you. I hope so you like these tutorials, and if you like these, don't forget to subscribe the channel, like the video. Thank you, and have a great day.